We believe that Karen Reed is guilty of killing my brother.
Based on the day's investigation, it was clear that Miss Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. Oh, fuck her, bitch.
Bitch.
We figured it out as soon as she left the house that day when she came over. We didn't talk to any investigators, state police, nobody. You know, my mother had said, do you think she has something to do with this? And I said, I'm a moron, I'm stupid. I actually blew her a kiss. I witnessed, one intense fight between the two of them.
You don't like to be spooned? Not for more than a minute or two.
We kissed, comma, right? Question mark. So then I put a question mark on her question and said, is this a trick question?
Mark.
Paul O'Keefe, last name O''K E-E-F-E.
This is Paul O'Keefe, brother of John O'Keefe. He's the one who filed the civil lawsuit against Karen Reed and the various bars. This is him in season 1. Let's watch.
Where do you live, sir?
West Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
Who, if anyone, do you live there with?
My wife, Erin, our 2 children.
How long have you and your wife been together?
Together, 24 years total. Married for 17, almost.
Okay, what is your wife's name?
Erin.
Does your wife work as well?
She does.
I'm not sure why Lyle is asking so many questions about Paul. The only reason I can think of is if he shows that he's a committed, faithful husband to his wife and they've been married for a long time, it will gain some credibility with the jury.
What does she do?
She's in marketing. She works for a mechanical contractor out of Randolph.
About how long has she been doing that?
She's been with her company for a year and a half now. Before that, she had a job working out of Boston for about 13 years.
Mr. O'Keefe, when was it that you first met Karen?
Mother's Day, May of 2020.
As far as your understanding, what was sort of the living arrangements with regard to Miss Reed and your brother?
She has her own home in Mansfield, Massachusetts. She would stay at my brother's house in Canton, I would say 3, maybe 4 nights a week.
We kissed, comma, right? Question mark. So then I put a question mark on her question and said, is this a trick question?
Mark.
Defendant said, I don't know when I'm going home. I'm selling my house. I responded, are you moving to Canton? I'm following your lead with this. Defendant responded, I live here, but I have property in Enfield. I'm guessing it's Medfield. Defendant said, I don't know, question mark. It's in Old Colonial. It has a lot of bedrooms.
During the text exchange between Higgy Bear and Karen Reed, she discloses how she lives day to day with regard to where she stays and the living arrangements. Let's listen.
Are you moving to Canton? Question mark. Defendant said, I know, seriously. Some rooms I only go into dust. Not anytime soon. I'm there most of the time, but sometimes it's a lot.
I don't share a bed with anyone ever.
Question mark. Question mark.
I have my own room in Canton. What? Yeah, I think sharing a bed is archaic. You don't like to be spooned? Not for more than a minute or two. Weird. You would rather sleep alone? I've got to make my sleep count.
And that would be at your brother's house with both he and your niece and nephew?
Correct.
What, if any, conversations did you have with your brother in regard to status of their relationship or any issues in their relationship?
He didn't say too much. If they were arguing, give reference that they were arguing, didn't really tell me what they were arguing about. Mostly kept that stuff to himself.
What, if anything, did he mention to you as far as reasons for an argument or sort of points of contention?
He didn't like if she would spend a lot of money on the kids.
What an asshole she was.
For gifts. I know there was some arguments over what she fed them, whether it's Dunkin' Donuts or whatnot, along those lines.
Listen to how this witness detailed the various ways Karen Reed abused her boyfriend's children.
I mean, they argued. We'd get upset or like over if she bought expensive things for the kids.
Right. That would be the one thing that John would complain about. Karen buying like very nice things for his niece and nephew, right?
Correct.
Or he'd complain if Karen was taking his niece and other girls to get their nails done, extravagances like that.
Correct.
And one specific memory you have is when Karen bought his niece a very expensive sweater, right?
Correct.
We pray that one day these children can recover from all the abuse inflicted by Karen Reed.
What, if any, occasions, as far as their arguing or anything like that, did you observe?
I witnessed they had rented a house down in Cape Cod. I brought my 2 daughters down for a couple nights. I witnessed, one intense fight between the two of them.
Physical or just verbal?
No, it was a verbal argument.
What, if anything, was that verbal argument about?
I guess like typical couples fighting. There was alcohol had been involved.
An alcohol-induced fight between an Irish couple? I've never heard of that.
I recall her complaining that, he wasn't nice to her or, something to that effect. And I was kind of the referee in that entire situation.
You make reference to alcohol involved. Is that one or both? Or?
Both.
And about how long was it that you were in the family sitting room before you went somewhere else?
Paula keeps describing what occurred at John's house after Brian Higgins murdered him that very morning.
So we were in that waiting room. Doctor and nurse came in and told us that all their efforts to save my brother were unsuccessful and that he had passed away. And then asked if we wanted to go see him, in which we said yes. Karen Reed was there. She was being restrained by hospital employees, and she was, screaming out to us, asking if he was alive.
At some point, you went into the room where your brother was. Can you describe to the jury sort of what you saw?
I mean, he was pretty banged up. He had his eyes had swelled up, blood come down his nose, blood come down his mouth. But what really stood out to me was the eyes. It was almost as if like there were ping pong balls under his eyelids. They were that swollen.
Based upon the look of the injuries on John's face in season 1, Alan Jackson and the rest of the team falsely and wrongly concluded that he was beat to death. It turns out those injuries were from the coup contra coup, where the brain actually smashes through the front of the orbital area and causes those injuries.
Noticed some markings on his arm. He had markings on his right arm. I didn't notice anything on the other side.
So as you exit the room where your brother is and you come back out in the hallway, what, if anything, occurred?
Again, we saw Karen Reed being restrained by hospital employees screaming the same things. Is he alive? Is he alive? Is he alive?
It's clear from his testimony, Paul has a very strong bias against Karen Reed. Yes, she did do those unfortunate things of buying those kids expensive gifts, and probably that's not forgivable. But claiming she was hysterical at the hospital, wondering if John was still alive, is perfectly normal.
You, at any point, either before or after, respond to any of that?
I actually blew her a kiss.
He blew her a kiss. Most likely was done in an aggressive manner based upon this big dope's face.
Now, as far as your relationship with the defendant, Ms. Reed, prior to January 29th, 2022, how would you characterize it?
I thought we had a good relationship. I held her in very high regard. I thought she was a good influence on my niece and nephew. I appreciated all the help that she was providing to my brother with the kids.
And during times of trouble, when she needed him the most, he turned on her.
She was became very friendly with my wife, but I'd say overall we had a good relationship.
Paul keeps bragging about his wife, and he does have that right. He's in the small minority of people that are married and happy.
At some point after you left the hospital in Brockton, what, if any, conversation or what, if any, phone calls did you receive in relation to the defendant, Ms. Reed?
Karen Reed called me, asked me if it was okay to come over and to see the kids, and I said sure.
When she arrived at your brother's house, who, if anyone, was she with?
She was with her father. When Karen and her father arrived, I was shoveling the walkway out front.
And when you sat down with Patrick to tell him what had happened to your brother, who, if anyone else, was with you at that point?
Karen Reed.
Where was it that the defendant and her father went?
Upstairs into the bedroom. She had some of her belongings that she had taken from the bedroom.
Where did she go with those belongings?
They left. I mean, that would be in the morning coming back from the hospital.
Do you recognize any of the people within?
This is video at John's house on the morning he was pronounced dead.
That'd be myself. I believe that behind me could be Kerry Roberts, because I believe that's Kerry Roberts' car. Oh, that's my mother.
Again, Ms. Gilman, if you could just pause that briefly.
That looks like Karen Reed in the photo, on the video. I assume that's her father's car.
So this would have been the time that Ms. Reed, the defendant, arrived with her family from the hospital as well?
Correct.
You can see in the video Karen Reed trailed by her father, Mr. Reed, who's been with her through this entire event.
From this video you referenced earlier in your testimony, Ms. Reed had gathered some belongings and then had left with all of the vehicles that her family came with, correct?
Correct. That's Karen Reed.
Mr. O'Keefe, sir, I have no questions for you.
All right, Mr. O'Keefe, you are all set, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So as far as the mistrial, yes, it's something we didn't want, obviously, but it's just a bump in the road, and like I said, we'll do it again.
After season 1, this big dope sat down for an interview with a local TV station.
We'll do it as many times as we have to.
Do you feel comfortable telling me, just from all that you've learned over the last 2.5 years, like what you think happened that night?
By now, it's obvious what happened. After 9 days of sexting with Karen Reed, Higgy Bear was confronted with her. She ignored him at the bar. He threatened him on video at the bar. Went back to 34 Fairview, waited, texted John to come over, and then once he did, he attacked him, eventually killing him right at 34 Fairview.
You know what happened. Johnny and Karen were arguing towards the end of their relationship. Things weren't well, drinking and arguing and fighting, and intoxicated state of rage and jealousy. She just decided that she was going to do something about it. Put the car in reverse and ran him down and left him there to die.
What a big dope. Because he's in the best marriage I've ever seen, he doesn't understand that when you are married, you are trapped. Karen was not. Karen had no kids. She wasn't married. She wasn't engaged. She would never risk killing the guy. She would simply move on. She had no strings at all.
We figured it out as soon as she left the house that day when she came over. We didn't talk to any investigators, state police, nobody. My mother had said, do you think she had something to do with this? And I said, we're not going to think like that. Went outside to the driveway to look at her car, and her car was gone. It was a blizzard. I knew what the driving conditions were like coming from the hospital to Canton, and I knew that they were going back to Dighton, which was a much further drive, so we put it together pretty quickly.
And there you have it. Paul O'Keefe and his mother solved this crime quicker than Michael Proctor did.
Michael Proctor, based on the day's investigation, it was clear that Miss Reed had struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. Oh, fuck her, bitch.
Based upon Karen coming to the house and then leaving, he determined that she was guilty.
When did you realize? It was literally that morning.
I would say early afternoon when they came back to the house. She wanted to come over and see the kids. Didn't really interact with them at all. Was there for probably a total of 30 minutes. Didn't say much or anything. And half of her time was upstairs gathering her things.
Well, then she must be guilty.
She wanted to be there for the kids. My nephew came home. My niece was already home by the time she got there and her family arrived. And I sat down, my nephew in the other room, she sat right next to him. I explained to him something happened and he's no longer with us. She didn't say a word. And right after that, she went upstairs and started gathering her belongings. And the next thing you know, they were gone. Her attorney, David Unetti, had said this is a tragic accident. His client had no criminal intent. Fast forward to, I guess, when Alan Jackson came on board. They teamed up with a blogger to get their story that they concocted and put together, and people were only hearing one side of the story and coming to conclusions before actual evidence in the trial had actually begun.
Didn't he just admit that he came to his conclusion within minutes of seeing Karen Reed on that very morning?
And I knew that they were going back to Dighton, which was a much further drive, so we put it together pretty quickly.
When did you realize? It was literally that morning.
I would say early afternoon when they came back to the house. A lot of the public was misinformed, because they were only getting one side of the story. She knows exactly what she did, and she's trying to buy and lie her way out of this, refusing to take accountability for her actions. Not only that, but pointing the finger and blaming innocent people. Jen McCabe, Kerry Roberts, all they did was pick up the phone and help, because she was asking for help.
How have they treated you guys over the course of the last year and a half?
I get messages all the time, whether through Facebook or other ways of communication, telling me that I'm a moron, I'm stupid, need to open my eyes and all this stuff. I ignore those, and I like to think I'm a moron, I'm stupid. I know a little bit more of what's going on in the case than, people that are just reading stuff on the internet.
Paul's describing the harassment he receives online, including receiving messages from random people with derogatory comments. Luckily for him, he's in such a good marriage and a good place mentally that he blocks every single person that tries to contact him.
And there's been things said about me, accusations about me, all types of things that just aren't true. I'm a moron, I'm stupid. Colin Albert, who was a 17-year-old kid at the time, his life has been turned upside down and ruined. I've gotten to know the Alberts.
Christopher Albert.
Brian, last name Albert.
Brian Albert Jr., and it's Albert.
Through all this, and they're all good people. I'm a moron, I'm stupid. Just because we don't believe in a crazy conspiracy theory and we believe that Karen Reed is guilty of killing my brother.
Usually jocks, especially quarterbacks that play for small schools like Paul here, are very intelligent. He is a victim of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you make a decision about something early on, you mentally exclude any evidence that contradicts your original decision. And we can't fault them. It's a valid psychological issue. Many people still believe that Colin Albert was guilty of attacking John O'Keefe simply because they initially were told that he did it. And now with all the evidence establishing that little Colin wasn't even at the house when John O'Keefe arrived, people still believe he's involved.
I'm a moron, I'm stupid. So for me personally, I've kept my circle smaller. People that we were friends with or haven't seen in a while, you just don't know where their mind's at.
Paul's describing how he had to keep his circle of friends even closer after this trial started.
We've been forced to become very kind of like defensive, not as outgoing as we normally would be.
Anything I haven't asked you about that you want to make sure people know?
In all this, I just want people to remember I'm a moron, I'm stupid.
We definitely will remember that, and we definitely won't stop producing these videos until the real killer,
Brian Higgins,
is brought to justice.
What kind of relationship? A buddy-buddy relationship?
the same thing everybody wants, a real relationship.
A romantic relationship, Mr. Higgins?
It's possible.
Right.
I kissed gay Jeff. The same thing everybody wants. A real relationship. It's possible. Sending somebody flowers. It's possible.